Good morning, it's Art Online with Hazel Jarvis, and this week we're going to be painting vases. And this is specifically the vase that we're going to paint. This is a little vase that I saw in Hudson, New York, way back in 2014. And we're going to do the vase with a background. So this is just a fun, loose vase with a background. So let's get started. So you have your reference picture, and we don't want to spend too much time worrying about drawing it and getting it symmetrical. So what I like to do is take some printer paper, I fold it over, I draw the outline, I cut it out, and you end up with something that looks like this. You want to do your color study, so you'll choose a limited palette so that you get an inner harmony. You'll test the colors. I usually go for 5 or 6, and I like to be sure that I have 1 or 2 that can go light, like my yellow, and 1 or 2 that can go really dark, like this dark green. And I'm just using the standard Kuretake palette. Grab your container, and you can do it with a lid, or you can do it without a lid with flowers, totally up to you. I'm going to do one with flowers without a lid. So here is my template, and I place it on my paper, and I very, very lightly draw around. For the background wash, you'll need a nice big fat brush, but if you don't have one of these foam brushes, 25 cents from the hardware store, works equally well. Pre-moisten your paints so they're easy to pick up, and we're going to paint on a combination of the yellow and the pink so that we get a lovely apricot-y background. And you'll just paint over it nice and loose, but try to leave that center where you painted the vase unpainted. So my background wash is now dry, and we can go ahead. And I know from experience that drying a wash can take anywhere from 15 minutes to half an hour to even an hour if it's a very humid day. So you just have to your template and very, very lightly just restate where you want your vase to go on this nice dry wash. Here is a rough study that I did, and I just want to show you how I've got one flower here that's pointing head on. This flower is pointing to one side, and this flower is pointing to another side. Start by painting our roses. I'm going to take some nice pink, number 34. I'm going to place my rose here, and I'm going to do a loose painting. So that is basically just painting a whole series of strokes going around clockwise, but leaving some space in between. So this is your first rose. Put in our second rose. We'll vary the color a bit. So we'll use some 37, some of this magenta, and we'll tilt the rose so it's a little bit on its side, so it's pointing away from the vase. So I'm now going to take some periwinkle, and I'm going to start putting in the shape or the shadow of the vase. So it comes in like this. Just delineating the round shape, one of the reasons why I love this vase, and putting in the handles. While the body of the container is drying, we can go back to our roses and put in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to take some more of the 37, the 37, the magenta, and I'm going to just darken up this center just by putting in a few darker petals. So I'm going to brighten that magenta with some pink and just make this a more interesting flower. The container are still drying, so we're going to put in some rose leaves. So the rose leaf, I like to mix number 56, this blue-green, with a little bit of my magenta. And you get a lovely smoky dark green. So I'm putting in just a couple of light sprays where I want some leaves to go. That's going to be my guideline. And I'm going to start by putting in the necks for the leaves. And then I'm just going to paint in my rose leaves. So adding in more leaves. It's nice to vary the colour of the leaves so you get some that are really super dark, just like the ones that I'm working on over here. Some leaves that are light and some leaves that are pretty dark. So I'm going to put on these dark marks here just to establish the pattern. A mixture of the pink and the magenta. Now I'm drawing on a little bit more pattern. Waiting is mix a little bit of the periwinkle with the dark green and give myself some shadow underneath the pot where the container is sitting. Like this. And if I want, I can also bump up part of the background. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this lovely yellow, which is now pretty apricot-y from the pink, and I'm going to start to bring it up close but not touching the vase, just to make that background a little bit more exciting. So we're getting very close to the end, which is exciting. I'm going to add a little bit of this apricot colour to the centre of my roses. Then I'm going to mix a little bit of my 34 pink with my white and put a little bit on the body of the pot. Just like this. Not too much, and keeping some of the unpainted paper showing. Like so. Move around as I paint. So I'm going to add a little bit more detail to the leaves now with my green and my magenta. So maybe I'll give some of them a slightly serrated edge. And some of them I'm just going to paint down the center so you see just half is painted. Notice I've given that treatment to some of the leaves but not all of them, because you really want some variety. You want some that are defined and some that are... Strengthen our base shadow just a little bit more, adding some pattern into the center of the container. And you'll see how repeating the colour gives this lovely internal harmony. Strengthen the handles a little bit. And here we have the finished piece. You can see I darkened the centre of the roses. I added a couple more petals. I strengthened the shadow and I added some more pattern on the vase. There are a million different ways you can work this. You could add ink lines. You could add ink lines, you could add a pattern to the background. There are so many different ways of doing this. So I hope you'll have fun, and I look forward to seeing what you're doing. And remember, it's Hazel Jarvis, it's Art Online, and thank you so much.